Right, so I guess we're live. And I want to address directly some items, some main general ideas that I want to cover in this stream. We are going to be working only for 1 hour, so let me just transition to my workspace. Because I wanted to show you a lot of things that are coming in Blender 3.5, specifically the Realtime Compositor. So the way you acquire it is by downloading Blender 3.5. I think it's alpha right now. And after you come here to edit preferences, you're gonna come here into interface and mark developer extras. With this checkbox, this button will appear. When you click here, you need to mark the real-time compositor, which is right here. I have all of these other features in testing mode, if we can say it that way. But the real-time compositor is our main concern. So you can come here and save preferences, and you're pretty much set. Once you get that, you're going to have this new dialog down here where it says compositor, where you can choose for each window, for each individual window, which option would you like to activate. In my case, I have it active for the camera only, or you can also apply always. If I click on always, all of the viewports, the 3D viewports, are always going to show everything and anything I have on my compositor window. One of the main reasons I've been avoiding the compositor for so many years, it's been like 2016, 4 plus 2, 6 years. Why I have been avoiding going too deep into the compositor? One, because not everyone is accustomed to this kind of nodes because they do not follow any other of the usual node compositing names because, they're like licensed and stuff like that. So you have a very specific node that is called alpha over, I think it is. And that is what basically means merge in any other node compositing software. Also, if you don't know who I am, my name is Pierre Schiller. I am a 3D animator and VFX compositor with over 20 years of experience. So it doesn't matter what kind of software background you have. It's either Nuke, Flame, I don't know, you name it. Lost Tree, Buju, whatever. You just name it. We'll talk in the terms of that software so that you can comprehend what I am doing with anything I am describing on the screen. So to summarize, I've been, dabbling around the compositor because some things over here are not working as I would expect as a compositor, but it works in the sense that gets the job done. Of course, every area in Blender can be always creatively implemented to do marvelous tasks. It's just a matter of developing, implementing, uploading to main branch. Obviously, it gets code reviewed, and therefore, goes through some scrutiny until it gets approved and then finally implemented on the solid release. But with that being said, version 3.5 brings to the table something very amazing, and that is the possibility for you to construct any kind of effect directly on the viewport. So I'm going to be disabling this for now, and I want to break down the scene. I want to tell you what I have, what we could have, and then what we would do. So this is Fixie. Fixie is my original character. She was created at the beginning in, I think it was on December 2019. By then, I only had a very few interested artists that wanted to try a new character with anime looking shaders. And I think I went a little bit overboard over the years. I can see that it's 2022 now. We're going to 2023. And over the years, I have seen that maybe it was a little bit too much because I really went all out with the shader. You can change the uniform colors and do so many different things with this color picker, which was specifically created to drive many of the uniform, for example, parameters or the glow of the weapon, anything you want to accomplish, for example, like, okay, you can change it here. Uh, some of these are disconnected right now because I totally changed her configuration, but don't worry, every person that previously got my Guilty Gear stylized shader course, which included this model, this specific model, will get a free update for Blender 3.5 and above. And for the people who got this stylized 2D training course from WingFox, which also includes Fixie, they will also get a free update, except that they are going to get this exact file that I'm going to be producing today. Okay, so if you want Fixie updated and animated, you should go to WingFox, and if you're interested, support me with the course there. But if you would like to get the previous files, like the very 2019 files, those are on Gumroad. Now, a quick forward about Gumroad. I am not very much active there because I have some kind of conflicts, internal conflicts on the way they handle things with the portal, with the web page, web front page, web store front web page, plus other things that they are not worth mentioning right now. But that's why I kind of I'm not very active there. Instead, what I did was to form this alliance with WingFox, and I basically told them, all right, let's do this together. I'm going to be training any Blender artist or any other artist who comes from any other software background, and we're going to open this Discord channel where anyone can ask the difficult questions in case they do not understand the course. So basically that's the reason why the most updated version is on WingFox instead of Gumroad. But I will be publishing a very short video about that to explain the differences and why am I doing the things that I'm doing right now. So let's break down this scene. We have a plain background right there. It's just a large image. We have a rigidified character, which in this case is Fixie. We can move and animate her, and we're going to do that in just 1 hour. But I wanted to show you the features that we have in the I hope you're getting this because right now it says there's an error here. Anyways, let's continue. So, a rigged character using Rigify, which is a native add-on here in Blender. Through you can create characters, rig them, and have every control for the face and other basic parts. Of course, I had to rig the hair with another bone system, or rather the same Blender bone system, but I did those things extra. As extra are the shoulder blades, and we're going to be animating all of these fun controllers today. So that's that, and then we have a camera. This is a camera with the format 235 1, I think it is. That's the aspect ratio for CinemaScope, which is a long, very long aspect ratio. Let me see. Here we go. The camera, the format. Here we go. So 2048 by 620, which is not really the actual 1:1 aspect ratio for cinema movies, but you get the idea. This is just a test to try the different real-time compositing nodes. So what I have here now, it's my camera, and it has been already baked in threes. Every 3 frames the camera is going to be moving to a different space, to a different position. Okay, I'm tapping my forward arrow in the keyboard, forward arrow in the keyboard, and backward arrow on my keyboard. That's why you hear the clack, click, clack. Okay, but enough of that. It is called the Realtime Compositor because of course you can play it back on real time. But for that I need to unload the current buffer. So advice number one: just make the size of whatever you're doing here the smallest readable area like this. If you make it huge like this, you're gonna waste a lot more memory. So that's why I always try to divide my screen from the middle region to the right and use that kind of aspect instead of my gigantic space. Otherwise it will play slow. And the second thing you need to do is to have the viewport active only for this real-time camera preview, not the other one, because it's going to try to play back both at the same time. And the only editor that I found out it doesn't consume that many resources, it's the text editor. So that's why you see me here switching to a text editor. Anyway, so let's play back. I'm recording, so you may see some bumps here and there, but you can actually see this is moving pretty nice. So Fixie is blinking and she's concerned. You can clearly see that she's getting ready for some kind of action, some kind of fight. She's getting prepared. Okay, here her physical motion is readable. That's what I mean. So I press home and then I'll focus here. And as you can see, the camera focus also changes. You would argue, Mr. Schiller, this doesn't look anything like anime. This looks like 3D with some sort of a stylization over it. Yes, it does. And I agree with you. This is not a fully anime frame. And there are different factors that I would like to present to you in a future video, which I will be calling something like an essay or an ode to anime production or something like that. It will cover the topics as what makes the anime look so good, what the style that requires anime is so hard to do. I'll be going over materials and some other things that I won't share right now because I really want to put all of my efforts for that as a basis for next year's training courses, which are brand new. I will be announcing that in January, just like last year. So if you go to my January video, I think it's January 22, from 2022, you will see everything we have covered in this year. So obviously, God willing, in 2023 we are also going to be mentioning what future products and what future trainings, plus what future models I will be placing or uploading for the general artists who are interested on this kind of production style. So anyways, you already seen Fixie working. So it looks good. That's a real-time playback. As you can see, we have the light leak right there. We also have grain, so let me enable that and let's start talking about this. Now, if I remember how to, I think it's this way. Let me just join this. I'm getting errors, by the way, on my YouTube stream. Hopefully this is catching up. Hello, Indixir. In Sandir. Oh gosh, in Sandir. Inxandir. Hello. Wow, this seems really cool and useful. Are you gonna post this live stream? Yes. This once it's over, it's going to be recorded and uploaded as such in the live stream tab from my channel. So as you can see right here, probably because of the compression, I should be making this a lot bigger. Yeah, not a bad idea that we can. Okay, maybe there. Like this. I'm sorry to be organizing this. By the way, I'm pulling the top part of the window, top corner, top right corner of every editor window so that you can see this much better. So trying to resize this so you can read the nodes, and we can also read the nodes as well. And what I tend to do is to have my configurations and stuff all the way over here, because you can do that, and then push the window and press it to that side. Whoops, sorry. Here we go. Alright, so let's go. To create this anime look, well, as I mentioned before, we needed the light leak. Let me see if I can just see no header. Here we go. So I have my, press home, alright, that's the proportion. So I have my entire complete character scene over here. As you can see, this is the only scene. We're going to be covering the render passes, render layers, what they're called, and also scenes, okay, for the real-time compositor and the future possibilities of this, because they are going to be really great once they get implemented. So the first thing I want to do is to create a color correction, a basic color correction, doing some modifications on the shadows, and for that I'm using just the blue channel to affect the midtones, where they start, where they end, and pumping them up with a little bit of lift. Okay, so this is why we see most of the shadows in a blue tint color. If I select this, which is already previewing, and then press M, you mute this node, and then you can see the clear real colors that the actual scene has. So you can see the reds are really red. This area over here, it's kind of trying to be mixed with the background, which is a really important concept, by the way, for any compositor. You really need to know how to do your light wrap. If you do not make your light wrap correctly when you're compositing anime, then your drawing is going to look very off. Okay, more on that later. So anyways, I have a color correction here, and the next thing I want to implement is a blur. So I'm going to be connecting this over here, and I'm going to press M to unmute this. Now you're going to notice two things. One of the things I want you to notice is that whenever you use a blur node, it's going to affect the way you have zoomed in your viewport. Because right now I'm going to press N, I'm going to come here to the sidebar where it says view, and from view lock, I'm going to be selecting camera to view, and whenever I move my mouse, the camera is also going to move. But since I have already showed you that the camera is animated, I'm going to be switching this off. And the advantage of doing that, press N, that thing goes away, is that you can roll or you can move by pressing Shift and middle mouse button. That's going to pan, roll it, middle mouse roll, it's going to zoom. Then you can come close to any other part that you want to review, like for example this part over here, or this part over here. It's looking good, but it could get better. So I'm going to be applying this blur node here, and after that I want to mix it back with the color correction I had before. So I'm going to be clicking Control Shift and mix, and then it's going to start mixing in a percentage with the previous image that it has. You can see that some of the blur edges over here are mixing with the original image, and thus it creates kind of a little bit of glow. It is not that much because again, we have already stated that these are screen space effects, which means it doesn't matter if you zoom all that much, the blur is always going to continue to be the same. In 10 pixels in this case that I have used. I can use the full power by using size. So if I set it to 1, we're getting more blur. You cannot see it right now because I have a very little pixel blurring rate. It doesn't matter, we're going to apply some other blurs. From there I want to overlay the previous image plus the color correction thing. and such, I continue to create this entire tree. Now let me unmute every other node that I have right here, even this one, the last one, which is also a blur, and then finally let me connect it back to where it belongs, to preview over here, which is the composite. The composite node is what makes you see the final result. So whatever you compose or whatever you create, this is going to be in charge of taking everything that you have right here and plugging it back to the final result. So I have another color correction, then I have tile grain, I have the light wrap, I have the background, which is a still background just to blur it out. I add those two components in using the light wrap as a factor. And then finally I have the lens distortion, and again I'm blurring this out. And this is the result that we have. I think this is the one that controls how much blue tint I want to add to this scene. Okay, so as you can see, if I let me open a player right here. Whoops. Show me the header and switch this to the timeline. Here we go. Alright, so if I change this, okay, I'm tinting the entire scene, composed scene, all at once. It's like basically multiplying, this color over everything. So I want this to be a very cold temperature scene. Okay, so it is great, it is good. But if we can change this, and you can see it's whoops. Yeah, I was being too bold in doing that kind of thing and expecting Blender to not fail. But anyways, let's relaunch Blender. And now that you know what the compositing 3 does, I can just directly show you what I wanted to do, which is basically activate every other effect, activate the viewport, and this is a very interesting part which I don't often see people do. There are some other unspeakable name software which is very popular where they say, hey, you know what, I want to have my sound wave inside the timeline, and then someone took that request or that question actually and turned it into an add-on. So I got that add-on and I'm going to be using it to animate Fix's voice in Japanese. It's not the best, it doesn't matter, I just wanted to show you how it will be done and how you can view your waveform in the timeline, and that is through an add-on. I don't have it active here, so I'll be making a pause before navigating to my folders add-on, searching for it and then installing it, but you will see it. So anyways, here is Fixie and we're going to be animating her. So let's start with that. I'm going to go back into the wireframe mode. Okay, that's her. Let me reactivate every control plus the gizmos, Alt A to unselect everything. Let me see if I have, no, I don't have installed the screencast. Oh no, I have it. I have it. Perfect. Please don't make it crash. Alright, here we go. So now you know what the compositor does. Control space will maximize this. Let's activate this. As a matter of fact, I had it switch off because blur takes like a little bit more of time in calculating the scene, but if you can just switch them off and switch them on before the final render animation, or actually the final playback animation, then it will be good. So that's that, and I'm leaving the compositor there, so I'm going to be joining this area over here. And now I have all of the properties I want to use for this. So I'm gonna beg your pardon for a second, but I need to navigate to my private folders and stuff, directories and things like that. So let me just find where was it and what was the name of the item, because honestly I don't remember. So far, thank you very much for joining into the stream. I'll be animating in just a short moment. Hi, Synthetic Dreamer. Thank you for your coming. You ask, do you think all the artists who want AI regulated are doing wishful thinking? All right, thank you for bringing such controversial topic into the live stream. Yes, I wanted to address that at the end of the stream, but please hold your questions because I'm really interested in sharing not only my opinions or points of view, but the actual meeting that I had last week with a lawyer, with a copyright patent guy. You know, those are the agents who dedicate themselves to register things, and an AI coder developer. And the talk was specifically around intellectual property. And I want to share all of those highlights right here. Maybe I can play them back in real time, because I did record the session, because I want to make a short video about what the most highlighted points are from that conversation. Okay, so thank you for your patience. We're only going to do this for 1 hour, so if you can hold until then, or maybe you can check back in the comments later, I can get you the long and short answer. But right now, let me see. Here we go. Sound wave display. That's a name. Sound wave display. Okay, so this is Blender 3.5, and our aim today is to animate and make Fixie talk in Japanese. Mr. Schiller, do you know how Japanese so you can actually move her mouth and stuff? No, but I want to show you something that it might be helpful for you to animate. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can show you my cheat code. I'm pretty sure I did save that picture. Oh no, I don't have it. No way. Oh no, it's not here. Gosh. Anyways, I can do that on grease pencil in a second, but don't worry about it. So I'm going to go into edit, preferences, add-ons. By the way, I'll leave the add-on name and URL in the video description once the live stream is over. But for now, this is the one. Sound waveform display, blah blah blah. This is by an awesome developer. Okay, oh, I already had it active. Sound waveform display. So it's there. So the way it works is that you can switch to the VSC, for example. Where's the VSC? Here we go. Home, so I can do this. By the way, you can see all my key presses over here. And I want to bring the actual wave file. Oh gosh, I think I did not activate the sound wave properties from my system, although I'll play it back and you'll tell me if you can listen to it or not. So current projects, voiceover, here we go. So I'm going to be dropping, right now you cannot see it because I'm using the Windows Explorer, but if I drop this over here, then my sound will load. And in order for me to see the sound wave, we're going to be doing this step by step. I'm sorry to take too long for this, but you gotta get this all together because other people also watch this and it's the first time they are using Blender. That's why I'm explaining this all step by step. So once you load this, or rather drop your waveform in the VSE, you're going to get this clip, but you want to see the waveform. How do you do that? You press N, and in the properties right here where it says strip, you have this display waveform. This is only one of the many different ways that you can invoke the waveform. I guess the other one is over here. No, they switch it. Yeah, they switch it. So now it's on the properties, strip, and display waveform. So as you can see, the duration of this kind of long. It's actually very long. Um, okay, so let me play it back. And if you can hear it, please say it in the chat that you can hear the sound, okay? Wow, it's getting very sluggish. I guess it's because I'm recording. So I'm going to play it back, okay? Let me know if you can hear the sound. Okay, can you hear the sound? Synthetic Dreamer, can you hear the sound? Nope. Okay, it's low. Let me see if I can fix that on OBS. Yeah, computer audio. Here we go. I'm going to be playing it back, so cover your ears. Just in case.
あなたはおかしな考えで人類の進化の次へのステップをねじ曲げた。
Okay, how about that? Can you hear it? Thank you, Buckman Place. Can you hear the sound? Let me play it back once again.
あなたは損傷している。私はそれを直しに来たの。
Okay, can you hear it? Buckman Place says perfect. Okay? Alright, I'll take it that it works. Fantastic. So, yes, what Fixie is saying here, let me see if I can open one text editor so that we can understand what we're working with. I'm going to be creating one new file. You have, what was it? Twisted the next step in human evolution. You've been hurt, but I am here to heal you. Alright, so this line is from the actual anime because I'm producing it. And we're going to be adding a lot of new characters. Not only Fixie is part of this entire universe, but there are some other characters which are going to also gonna come in play into 2023. So this is like the very first trial and error that I created 2 years ago, but now we're going to go full on production. I'm going to be sharing 3 of the models from the production so that you can, play with them, play around with them, and do your own fan animations officially. Anyway, so we have this. This is the entire dialogue, and as you can see, it lasts for, let me see, I think it was 700 something frames. No, 623. But the real part that we're going to be animating today is this one. So I'm going to be selecting this, and then you have the knife tool, which is the shortcut is K to like when you cut the polygons, but I switch it to S because I use Camstation. You can actually change the shortcut key for any key in Blender. So now that I have cut the audio, let's match it to the end of the clip, something like over there, and from there I'm going to be grabbing this and then press G to move, and then I'm going to be drawing this all the way back. So now we know how much of the sound we need to animate, and this is important. I have seen a lot of guys and a lot of girls, artists in general, who work specifically with some sort of notion for how many frames they should last on screen, and they do the thumbnailing. They draw quickly and then create a thumbnail. The way I am used to working is by using sound. If you don't have a finalized, approved, and also reviewed final actor waveform, I will not animate anything for you. I need to have the sound in order for me to create the animation. So that's why I'm starting with the sound. So, okay, you say, alright, Mr. Schiller, I can see the waveform here. So it's very easy to have the VSC open, and then I have my dope sheet open, and then I'm going to have my, graph editor open, and yeah, I'm going to have all of this entire space be wasted with the VSC. So that's a problem because all of the other softwares will immediately load your waveform inside whatever you're animating. If you're animating on the curve editor, you can see the waveform inside the curve editor. If you're animating in the timeline, like I'm wishing to do right now, I don't have a way to do that, and that's a problem. So that's where the add-on comes in handy, which is called sound waveform display. And the way it's going to work is by us switching to the graph editor, which in this case is where I'm going to start animating. And you can see right here that it's pretty much empty. But if you come here into the display tab, I'm going to be switching this into the on position, okay? And this was working on Blender 3.4, so let's give it a little bit time so that it will load it on 3.5, and hopefully it will not crash. Even if it crashes, I already told you how to do it without the add-on. This is an add-on, and this is a helpful way for you to animate. But if you do not have it, then you can go into the VSE display waveform route. And indeed, it doesn't work. Oh, it works. It's down here. Now, if I may recall how... here we go. Here we go. Yeah. I'm moving the height offset. With that, what it did was to activate the FFmpeg abilities to read the waveform and then translate that back into Python code, and then it pushes those variances by plotting a little bit of that value of the waveform and then placing it back here as a bar. That's why you can hide the offset with this slider. Anyways, this is more than enough to know where she's going to speak, how many frames she's going to pause, and then finally how she's going to conclude her dialogue. So we're going to be working with the blunt shapes that she already has. Now, Mr. Schiller, I have seen your course, or I have seen your other videos, and I know that if you are going to be using blend shapes on an normal face edited character's face, you're going to get problems. Really nasty artifacting. Are you ready to deal with those things in a live stream, Mr. Schiller? I live on the edge, sir, and thank you for your question because it's a very smart one. Yes, we're going to confront some issues right here, right now, but it's all part of one single thing I wanted to mention in this stream, and that is that you should always have fun. Never forget what you do for this job is also your job and your responsibility to carry on the performance on the shot, but it's also for you to enjoy what you're doing, you know? Do not take everything too serious because life should have some ingredients of fun. Not everything, but you should definitely have some time to enjoy what you do. Alright, so let's continue. So we can guess that this is the part where she ends. That means, but I am here to heal you. Let's see if this is the part. Oh! I'm not getting audio. Oh, I guess. Oh, okay. Because maybe it's the first time I... Okay, let's go here to the VSE and let's see if it's... If we have... No, sorry. Here we go. On playback, it says sync to audio. No, we want to drop frame dropping. This is important because not every time we're going to get this all together, and that's another issue that comes from compositing. Whenever you have your audio playing back in real time without frame dropping, you should consider your animation because it's really heavy and it will delay the audio, and that's why it is preferable to drop the frames, like frame dropping, like right now. And also I'm going to be marking here scrubbing, so you're going to be listening a lot of scrubbing audio. I'm just warning you. Be ready. Anyways, playback. Okay, that's everything we needed. Yeah, it's there. So now it should work. No. When I activated the FMPEG thing, it blew up. So let me just restart Blender. Maybe with that we can solve the issue. Don't worry about the rest. We're going to be coming back here. Oh, by the way, I have Stable Diffusion open and active because I also want to cover that at the end of the video. So thank you very much for staying here, Pugman Plays. Thank you, Synthetic Dreamer, and thank you. Let me see if Index Syria in gosh in Inksend Deer. Ah, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be butchering your name. Anyways, go back here, and hopefully we will see the wave displayed, and also we're going to play it back. Even in the case that we do not hear the sound wave, I wanted to show you two things. Two little, I don't know, we may call them techniques from the Japanese production. I'm pretty positive I did save that chart somewhere. I just don't remember where. I'll be sharing the chart in the link in the description below so that you can link it. But basically, in whenever you're animating in Japanese, they only have like around 6 mouth shapes. Only 6. You can even get it down to 4 if you mix them well. But with only 6 different forms of the mouth, they do their entire dialogue. And this is nothing to be surprised of, because whenever they port their animes outside Japan, any other translation in any other language fits perfectly because of this technique. You have to understand that they even optimize the way the frames are created for lip syncing, such that only 6 mouth blend shapes, if we can call it that way, are necessary for our character to speak. So we're going to try to remit or use that technique and apply it here with Fixie. Now, as you can see, we have 2 different issues, and this is one of the first thing I wanted to advise if you're doing your 3D anime. First of all, make those 6 mouth shapes into blend shapes. That way you will not do what I am about to do right now, which is basically animate every mouth controller by hand. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is to have deformers for the mouth, that's okay. But then recall the 6 mouth shapes for dialogue and lip sync from the blend shape editor. Okay? That way, if you're going to pronounce A, O, E, that's a blend shape. If you want L, M, B, P, that's a second blend shape, and such on and so forth. Okay, so playback. Come on, give me audio. Oh no, it crashed. For some reason, it crashed. Okay, no problemo. Let's just go back to where we wanted to be. Load up the display thing. Switch it on. The source is going to be the sequencer, as you can see right here. That's why it's important to load it first on the VSE, and then it's going to be replicated or shown on any of the selected strips. You can see right here. Yeah, the add-on, see that it's not ready for 3.5. This works perfectly for 3.4, but right now for 3.5 I'm going to submit to the developer this news, and that it crashes the sound. It doesn't let us hear what the sound is. But let's just animate this session kind of like a guesswork. Now let me see. I have seen other artists do this. Maybe it's possible for me, because I'm not, yeah, no, too optimistic. What about here? Draw? No, it will not draw. It only draws on the check this out. Let's do something really out of the common. Yeah, let's go to the shader editor. Yes, it should be empty, but I should be able to draw, I guess. No. Why is this? Oh, because I am on post mode, and whenever you're in post mode, you're basically blocked from any other mode out there. Nope. it is still on pose mode. This is strange. This is strange. Okay, so let me try something. I will create any geometry. Let's go with, I don't know, an icosphere. And I'm going to place it up there. It's just a regular object, but I want to put any material, just any material actually, and call that material, I don't know, my notes or something. New material. I'm sweating bullets here with any button pressed that delays itself. This is notes. I'm not going to actually create a material. I'm only going to create the material for the following means, so that I can have this layout or this editor active. Now it's active. I can see it here. It's called notes, and I'm sweating bullets because it looks like it's going to crash. So let's just get that out of the way. Let me get back my screencast key so you can see what I'm doing. And now I can draw, right? Yeah, I can draw, finally. Alright, so how do I erase this? I think they said control plus something. No. Middle, no. D and control. Come on! How do you delete this? This is so freaking funny. Oh, here we go. Finally. So, the mouth shapes. So, the first one is like this shape, which represents the open, wide mouth. So, let's imagine for a second this is the face. Okay? That's the mouth there. I wish I could have the cheating code there. Then we have a semi-closed mouth, which is used for M, B, P, M, B, P, and L sometimes. Then we have the one that's called dentilingual, which is tongue in between the teeth. I'm exaggerating here. And that is useful for D, Y, what's the other one? Some other. And then we have two more, which I'm not going to be doing, but you get the idea. And you're also going to get the link once this stream is finished, because we have other subjects to attend and speak for. Hey, Pugman Plays, thank you so much for being right now. I know it's kind of a difficult time for attending something like this, but I'm just chilling out right now. So ask away any kind of questions when we're going to address them at the end of the hour. So you may ask, how are we going to animate if we don't have the actual sound? Well, we do have the actual sound. It's right here on the VSE. Only it's not playing back because some sort of I don't know, glitch on the sound card, because I'm recording right now. But let's see, it's timeline. So let's just use this like that, and let me just get close to her like this. Let's go to the mouth controls, press and pose control. Okay, so here we are, and we want to animate her mouth. So what I usually do, and since I cannot draw over here, is that we're going to recognize the peaks on this waveform. And the peaks on the waveform are usually the loudest or the most wide open mouth. So we know that here we have open mouth, semi-closed mouth, open mouth again, semi-closed mouth, or rather actually closed, entire closed mouth, semi-closed, 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 wide open again, and then semi-closed, closed, over here closed, semi-closed, dentilabial or something like that, and finally closed. So this is the segment that we're going to be working today, so that we can head on with the other questions. And if you're a user of any of the Gumroad assets that you may have gotten from the training course from the 2019 training course and the 2020 WingFox course, the WingFox course is the most updated one with most recent changes on Blender interface because the 2019 version was created using Blender 283 and 283. And the 2021 version in WingFox is created using the 292 and 3.0 versions. And of course, the user interface has changed as it will also change with Blender 3.5. So let's hit the big notes first. Alt R will reset the mouth, and you can see that the mouth has been shut. And we're going to start with a mouth shot right here. Let me see if I can just bring this back and display all the way to the height offset, the highest I can. Oh, let me just actually, okay, I think that will work. Just join this thing again. Okay, hide it, and let's worry about this section. From 99 to 160, we're going to be animating Fixie's mouth. We're also going to need the transform view so we can see what we're doing. I think this has a light wrap that can only be pulled right here. Yeah, wrap. You cannot recall this with N. That's a big failure. If you press N, you will see nothing happen. You need to come up here to this little arrow. You might not be able to see it because of the YouTube compression, but it is there. So that's the only way to pull this out. If you press N in this text editor, you will not see it. But we got word wrap, so let's see if it's wrapping it. Nope. Anyways, let's go and focus on her. So we start with a closed mouth, and then I'm going to be pressing I to insert the keyframe, and then I'm going to use rotation only because she's not going to be translating her jaw, not right now at least. So just rotate, and the shortcut for that is R, as you can see down here. So I usually press IR. In future videos, I will be showing what kind of hardware keyboard I use to control this even faster. I'm going very slow right now. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to share this in the live stream, because I wanted to show you how tedious this process is without automatically assigning keys from a secondary keyboard. But that will come later. Anyway, so let's start here. Hello, the mighty frog. AI is here to stay. Every country in the world will have to regulate it. Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking about that after we finish animating this. So we start with the mouth closed. That's good. I'm going to be moving over here, and this is kind of opening. I'm going to press RX, kind of opening something like this. It's not a fully open IR. And you can do this even better if you automate the auto key function right here. You also have it here in the timeline, and this is on the well, actually you will have it on the timeline only. So let's continue. Here her mouth will shut again. Let me just go back. Oh, just 1, 2, 3 frames. So let's just hold the pose. Maybe just a little bit like such. 1, 2. Again, let's hold the pose there because it's sort of opening again. And since now I have auto keyframe, it's not going to be that much difficult. By the way, you also want to avoid doing this on every X frame. Like right now it's 100, 101, 102, 103. Every 2 frames is kind of okay. If you do this 1 frame at the time, it's not okay. Fixie is animated on trees for this specific animation, so I'm going to be considering that every time I place a keyframe, I should make sure that I'm on the third frame of this animation. So I'm going to be making this very easy for you. 103 plus 3 is going to be 106. So this is the next step where I want to place myself and move her mouth. And I can see that she has um, a little bit of motion because this is not a wide open one like this one. It's not a very loud open phoneme. Um, 1, 2. This one it's a closed one. So Alt R to cancel out the rotation. Reset the rotation, sorry. Alt R. 1, 2, 3. And I'm skipping this because of course we are doing this live. So I want to go as fast as I can right now. It's not the ideal situation, but I wanted to show you that, for example, whenever you're going to have a wide open thing, you should prepare or do an anticipation by opening her mouth just a little bit more. Mr. Schiller, the artifacting started. How are you going to deal with those? Well, don't worry, we're going to deal with those later. Let's just nail the performance right now, or actually get it close to work, because our main interest here is to do this under 1 hour. Of course, movie animators have months, which is something I really admire from them. Like, you don't have to do anything except by approving dailies and revisions. That's wonderful to dedicate your own time, film yourself, record yourself to acting, and show that to the director, the animation director, and then you get approved, and then you go on to your shot until you finish it 1 or 2 months later. It's just marvelous. I mean, who doesn't want to work like that? But on TV, on anime, those are non-existing times. You need to do this as fast as you can, and that's why we're basically reviewing why we're doing this. Of course, if you cannot hear the audio, and I also cannot hear the audio, we're going to have to skip that section, but I just wanted to get the point across on how you can get the add-on to work. Okay. Don't worry, you will see the final animation on video in my YouTube channel, and you will see the actual animation in keyframes if you are a WingFox course subscriber or course student. Okay, you will get this file as a free upload, as a free upgrade. I'm sorry, and I'm also be finishing part 5 or section 5, which will talk about a lot of new things that you are going to be really interested in, like light directions, shadows, normal editing, and all of those good stuff. Now this is 2019 model, does not have the face editing that I wish I would have done back then, because I did it in such a simple way, but it works. But right now we're going to, on section 5, we're going to be talking about baking normals using the Genshin Impact shading styles, as well as other video games that have recently implemented shading methods like Blue Protocol and stuff like that. It's going to be very interesting, and the reason why it has been delayed so much is because Blender this year only has published 5 different Blender versions, which have changed dramatically the way nodes work, the way the UI was working, and also some internal changes for drivers, and that really, stopped me on my core. I had to redo and re-record everything back again 5 times this year. I was about to give up on that, but I feel that there are a lot of people who really want to dominate the CG, 2D, 3D anime production in Blender, at least, and I felt that this should be done. Also, a highly requested thing from the courses is the ability to port the model, the anime model, your anime model, outside Blender with this shading, with this specific kind of shadings. And I'm going to be addressing that possibly on a future video on section 6, because there are a lot of things that I want to mention for the Unreal Engine and Unity. But I will stop the surprises, ruining the spoilers right now, because I really want to focus on this thing and finish it so that we can go on and see how it works. So let's play it back. Okay, so there are our 6, well, not actually 6, but just opening and closing the jaw. Now, a really important feature when you're animating is located here in the timeline. You can see this little watch. If you click it there, you can define, whoops, you can define the region in which you want to work in the Realtime Compositor, okay, or in the timeline itself, so that you can have that little watch define the in and out section where you want the playback to occur. Meanwhile, this starts. Let's go with another question. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you, the mighty Flog. So let's recap. Right now we have talked about the nodes and the compositing system in real time that we have here in Blender 3.5. Of course, it is crashing a lot because it's still on alpha, or I think it's on beta right now. And you can play it back here. Let me see if nothing happens. Actually, let's cause this error faster. And I think we just lost everything we did on the graph. Yep. We lost everything we did on the graph. Mr. Schiller, can you recover it? I don't think so, because I should have set, my temporal file saving setup on Blender 3.5, and I did not do that. See that? Oh, there we go. Temporary files. I might be able to recover it. Let's see. Let's go to recover, and then last session. Let's see what it does. If it doesn't, we're going to just animate this on the fly, and then we're on our way. So let's just click on the jaw. Nope, nothing there. Yeah, I should have been able to save every 2 minutes or so. There is an auto save thing. Here we go. Save and load. Recent files. Save versions. Time. Oh, minutes. Every 2 minutes it saves. Okay, so not here. Let me. Hello, can you hear me? Can is the audio back? Hello, Shio Studios. Is the audio back? Oh, good. Oh gosh, I guess it's because the OBS is misconfigured or something. Yeah, that's why I don't live stream too much, because there are some sort of glitches here and there, and I don't like to work like that. So let's just do this really quickly. So it is 97. Let's yeah, it automatically causes the crash. Okay, so that's an interesting thing to report. Um, I guess we're going to skip over to the good part, which is the AI generation thing. Okay, let's do this one last time. This is so awkward. Okay, so graph editor. Here we go, and for the jaw, selecting the jaw, and now activating that display thing, switching it on. The requirement is that you previously loaded from the sequencer, so you can see who is the source, in this case the sequencers, and yes, we have the audio there. For the playback, well, right now, oops, it's kind of thinking. Yeah, I think this is where the audio thing happens. Whenever I load this add-on on 3.5, I get a glitch, and then audio automatically mutes itself. So there is playback. It's frame dropping. Yes. So, anyways, we have this back. Let's finish the animation. And it is important to notice that you have 0, minus 25, minus 20, minus 15, minus 10, and this is the like the keyframes that you're going to be using to the keyframe measures that you're going to be using. And I'm going to be doing this rather quickly because we already wasted a lot of time on crashes and restart. Screen keycast, automatic keyframing, save. I'm going to be rather saving this a lot. So IR, insert the first keyframe, save. Let's go a little bit closer. So I'm going to be closing the mouth every 3 frames. Alt R. Every 1, 2, 3. Let's this mechanically. I don't like to do this because it will look very robotish. Okay, it's going to look like preset, and I don't like that. You need to have some variations and anticipations, but you can do those splining later on. Okay, it's closed, so IR 1, 2, 3. It's open, RX. It's kind of wide open because you can see that the waveform is the way almost up here. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be closed, or Alt R. 1, 2, 3. Still holding that post. 1, 2, 3. Now it's going to be wide open. RX right there. 1, 2, 3. Holds the pose. IR 1, 2, 3. Semi closes. RX. That restricts to only that angle. RX. Okay. 1, 2, 3. RX. I'm going to go up just a little bit like that. It's not fully closed though. 1, 2, 3. Now it's closed. IR 1, 2, 3. Again, it's closed, and this is where we need to make some variations. So I'm going to be placing this right here. R, not that much, maybe right there. 1, 2, 3. And I can see the keyframes are placed over here. So here we see the holds. Here we see the opening and close. Alt R to be closed. 1, 2, 3. This is semi-closed, but then it's going to be bumping all the way up because you can see that these how do you call this, the waveform right here, it's very long, and therefore it indicates it's a very open wide mouth shape like this. 1, 2, 3. So you can see that even without the sound you may recognize how the waveform behaves. This is important. RX 1, 2, 3. RX, and I'm animating on 3s because that's how the original animation started. So RX just like such. Whoops, not that much. And 1, 2, 3, and this is going to be opening even wider, and I'm going to produce those artifacts that we spoke about so that you can understand what's going on. Okay, I'm going to be producing them on purpose. semi-open, and then finally save. 1 2, and then it's closed. Okay, perfect. So save. Yes, try what Shell said. What did Shell say? Instead of recovered last session, try recovered last autosave. That might help. Yeah, I did that hex code and it showed the error on the screen. You might probably have not seen it, but it showed an error. But right now, okay, so we have our main like mouth shapes, like opening, close, and since we do not have any sound, we don't know how well it will adapt. But as I mentioned before, in anime actually, they only do 6 mouth shapes. They usually go with 4, but if you want something more elaborate, they can go with 6. And now let's come to the next part, which is actually posing the lips. And this is what breaks the illusion when you're animating specifically for anime production versus 3D in the West or in America, because we always want to nail every action with the mouth shape, and it's not like that. You should not do it like that. You should do a stepped animation. Let me show you how. So we're going to do just this little section, because otherwise we're going to take a lot of time, and with that we're going to move on into the AI thing. I want to show you some examples as well. So okay, here we go. So we have a semi-open mouth, which is right there, and since I cannot hear the audio, I need to, let me see, here we go. I need to understand how the mouth is going to be moving. But what I want to emphasize on is that you should be making your mouth pop. In anime, your mouth pops. It doesn't interpolate easily from point A to point B. That's what I'm going to do right now so you can understand what we're talking about, okay? So we have a semi-open mouth, then she's going to be closing it, and then she's going to be opening it. Okay, so let's stop here. Let's say for some kind of reason, because we have the original intent over here. Let me make it a little bit, where do I think it's over here. Font size, here we go. Let's go for 35. So you can see it. Whoops. Hey, where do you go? So in the first part, Fixie is going to be saying, you have twisted. This is in Japanese, by the way, but you cannot hear it. But the first attendants listen to it at the beginning, but it's not playing sound anymore. So I'm sorry for that. I'm going to be playing this or uploading the finished product later on. So you have twisted the next step in human evolution. You've been hurt, but I am here to heal you. So if we're around this part, it might be where it says human evolution. So let's just imagine that. Let's imagine that we're going to animate the word human in this part. Human evolution. You've been hurt, but I am here to heal you. So indeed, this is the word evolution. Human and then evolution. We animated this part. Okay, so we're animating actually you being hurt. This is the part that we're animating. You being hurt. But of course, it's in Japanese. But anyways, so let's imagine for a second that we're going to animate her mouth. And as such, I'm going to be exaggerating this because I'm going to be creating a brand new file. I don't think I'll be using this same one in the stream. IL. Why am I going to use location? Okay, because we're going to be animating this. From here to, it's going to open now. We already expected this. GY. And this is going to go up. Okay, since we have it in automatic keyframe, it now has been established. Now it's going to be closed right there. Kind of like it there. Alt G to clear out this, and then it's inserted. So the most common mistake that we see, let me just IL again here. Whoops. IL. Here we go. So we start from this pose, which actually should be a little bit lower. Let's go. Whoops. Not like that. Okay. This works. Okay. So you can see that it interpolates slowly over time. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this, and it is because one reason, and that is that we have to look always for ways to for the economy of animation. Do less, represent more. Okay? Do less, represent more. And what we want to do here is to address those keyframes using the graph editor, as you can see right here. Let me get close to this because actually it's very far away. And you can see all of the lips that have the lips control, that have been selected, like lip L, lip R, lip T L001, and lip T R001. Okay, so I'm going to be selecting this with shift, all of those things, which are right here. But Mr. Schiller, I don't see the transformations. I don't see the actual modifications. This is because we're kind of very way zoomed out in the graph editor. So press home, and now you're going to get really close, and then you're going to see the actual movements. Now the second thing why you don't see any long curves here is because we have increased the transformations of these values in a very small quantity. Okay, that's why it doesn't look like they have moved at all. But I hope you understand that all of these values, like 98, 99, for example, you don't do this. You don't do one frame to another. You at least do 3 frames away from each other. So let me just grab all of this. GX. Let me bring this back. Okay. Okay, so it's open, close again, and then it goes. You may not see much of a difference because they are very close, and hence it looks like the mouth is popping to each of the sounds. In anime, you do want to do that. In American animation, you don't want to do that. But since we're working in anime, let's do that. Let's step all of those keyframes. I'm going to be grabbing all of them at once. Let me grab them like this. And you can do this either on the timeline or in the graph editor. I'm going to do it on the timeline because this is the way I always work. If I press T, it's going to ask me, hey, how do you want to interpolate these things? And then I would say constant. And that means that from here to here, it's going to hold this pose. From here to here, it's going to hold this pose. And from here to here, it's going to hold this pose. From here to, whatever left keyframes there are, it's going to be held in that place. So when you come here, look at how the, let me maybe switch over here. Look at how this is going to be snapped. Okay, you can see it right there. This is the last frame, previous frame, bam, snap. I think the add-on also kind of wrecked, kind of did a bug where I don't see the values, as in curves. But if it was in curves, what we would see is kind of like a stair. Like this would be square, it would go down, it would be square, it would go down. I have other videos where I show that, so let's continue. Alright, so the mouth is popping. And why don't we do that with the jaw? Because we already said, no sweet interpolation. The jaw should also pop. So maybe with that one, we're going to get a little bit luckier. Yep, indeed. Let's just maximize this so you can see it. Here we go. So we have 99 onwards, and you can see there are some really nice curves here. And now we're going to ask Blender to do this as a constant or stepped interpolation. So let me just grab all of this. so I know which sections we're addressing. Press T, use constant, and now you can see, let me maximize this for you, that all of our curves have been, immediately changed to this constant interpolation. So whenever I leave the frame, it's going to adapt the form of the following. It's not going to make a smooth transition in a curve. It's going to pop the jaw. So it's there, pops, it's there, pops, it's there, and such and such. Awesome. See that? That's one of the first things you need to do. Make sure that all of your lip sync mouth shapes are correctly animated, and from there on, I'm talking from a 3D animator perspective, you should make them in a stepped interpolation keyframe. Alright, so that's kind of working. I hope to have shown you some of the things that I usually do. Oh, by the way, if it takes too much time for the jaw to move and stuff like that, you can make this faster. And I want to show you something that I don't see many animators do, and they should. I'm going to be clicking here on the graph editor and then selecting the 2D cursor. The 2D cursor is going to be my playhead, this playhead right here. And what I want to do is to select all of these keyframes, which we have already animated, but we want to scale them. I sometimes see people asking the Blender developers, hey, why don't we have a transform box for all of the selected keyframes in Blender? Turns out you don't need it. You may draw it like using Python and GL, but in reality what you should do is just to switch here from the 2D cursor, press X, and now scale it. And because you are using the 2D cursor, which is the playhead, as the pivot point, whatever you scale, it will be scaled from here. So the same thing will go to the other way around. If I go on this side and then press X, you're going to see the keyframes coming to the right. You can see that, right? Now I'm scaling up, and they are scaling to the left. Why? Because I'm using the playhead as the pivot point. That is important. So okay, I want to kind of make the jaw pop a little bit earlier. So that is working kind of cool there. I guess it is really slow because I'm recording and all of that. So we have all of those other keyframes that are working with the jaw. Again, I'm going to be doing this in a snappy, selecting everything, press T, constant, and now the jaw pops, 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 just like we like. Mr. Schiller, the artifacting is back. Everything was going great, but the artifacting is back. How are you going to intend to fix this? And there are two ways. The first way is by baking normals. Your character's face, once you finish editing your normals, you can bake a normal map. You have to switch back to cycles, use a duplicate of the same face, and then bake that as a normal map using the highest resolution possible. That's 32 bits, floating in, I think it's EXR format or TIFF format. You can do either of those. And if you're not taking your animation out of Blender, then you're all done. You can go back and replug that normal map into your character's face and do all of the blend shape animations that you want. You will not lose them. But if you're doing the Guilty Gear method and using blend shapes to do that, and by the way, what what Guilty Gear models do is that they actually do not work with the transfer normals face. No, they don't, because they specifically address each of the individual cut scenes with a different topology face. Number one. Number two, they directly bake whatever the character is going to say or whatever the character is going to directly show as a face expression using bones, and then those bones are saved, manipulating your face, or the character's face, sorry, as blend shapes. So bones poses are saved as blend shapes for the face. Okay, so that way you can get an entire dialogue just moving blend shapes, and it works because you can actually exaggerate and sculpt. And by the way, 2 new videos I'm trying to upload maybe for next week, where I will show you how to use the sculpting tools with the Your model from Spy Family, and how you can use that with corrective blend shapes. That's an interesting video because it's going to be an entire masterclass about vertex painting and other nifty tools that Blender 3.5 has. But that's going to be coming up in the near future. So let's continue with this, and we are pretty done here at this point. As I said before, I don't want to take too much of your time. I can do this even better, but I'm explaining and walking and holding the crashes. You know how this gets in live streams. So let's just pretend for a moment that we have already finished animating the lip sync, and Fixie is ready for that. And for those of you who came late, we already also mentioned that this camera has baked animations in trees. So every 3 frames, the camera moves a little bit more. Every 3 frames, it moves a little bit more. You don't make a continuous movement, and this is something I really want to address on one of my next videos. The background movement. You can see it on Attack on Titan. You can see it on the Jutsu Kaisen movie, where the backgrounds move every 3 or 4 frames. And this is very important. You have already seen the Spider-Verse movie, and there they address the background holding frames and moving frames for the background to sync up with the character every 2 or 3 frames. Okay, this all gets complicated without actual examples, but try to follow along. So the camera moves linearly, and then it turns, it twists. Let me show you how it's doing right now. Please take a look at the camera over here, okay? Let me switch, maybe this is easier to see. Right there. So the camera is going to be twisting just a little bit, and just enough so that we can understand that the angle, it's pretty dangerous for Fixie, and she's looking for a way to defend herself. Okay. Hey, Jose Rano, thank you for coming. We're about to finish this quick animation demonstration for the Realtime Compositor, in which we have the objective to animate Fixie's mouth in real time with the audio, but the add-on crashed the audio, and now we cannot hear it. But anyways, so that's Fixie, and now you can see that there are some movements, for example, in this region, which are very linear. Okay, this is something I also recommend you do after you clean your entire shot, or you nail the performance, you finish the performance. Is that you bake every 2 or 3 frames. You bake the animation so that it will feel snappy, and it will sync to your 3s or 4s frames when the background moves. So let me see if I can do that right now, because this is another important thing I don't see anyone else doing and explaining, as a matter of fact. But this is crucial. It is important, and I think that with this will be done. So if I press F3 right now, and then I go to bake, annulate bake, okay, what this is asking me is that, okay, you want to bake this action, this object that you have selected, which is part of a rig. You want to bake that information to, always stick to that keyframe, specific keyframe. So let's start the dialogue. So it says, where do you want to bake this from? I want to start on frame. Well, I'm actually going to pop it out for a second because I need to understand. Here we go. From frame 98 all the way until frame 162. F3, enter, 98, 162. This is the important part. How many frame steps do you want to take to bake each time this transforms, or how many times do you want to use the keyframes for your baking? In this case, we're going to use 3. Every 3 frames, frame step, every 3 frames, we're going to bake one transformation, okay, for this control, for this, what is it called? Fixie torso? I don't know why they call it torso though. Looks like the pelvis, but anyways. Only selected bones. Yes, only this bone, because even if I don't have selected and get this out, everything will be baked. But we only want to work with only selected bones. And this is the confusing part where I don't see many people explaining. Why do I have a pose and why do I have an object to select to bake or to bake from, or rather use the object to bake? Right now, since we're working in a rig, it's obviously a pose selection because we want to bake the states of the bones. If you have another thing animated that you wanted to bake but was not part of the rig bones, then you would choose object. Alright, so I guess that's pretty clear. I don't know if any one of you have questions about this. This is the right time to ask. So I'm selecting this bone. That's why I'm selecting it to be baked on pose. Maybe bake data could make a little bit more sense if it said bake bones pose, but it's just summarized as post. Okay, so that's out of the way, and now you know how to use pose when you select a bone, or use object when you select anything that is not a rig. Anything, again, that is not a rig. So that's it. Let's go. It's going to start at 98 and it's going to stop at 168 and it's going to step by 3s. All right, let's go. Bam, 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 bam. It baked. Hopefully it will not crash. But again, we have the issue that this thing is linearly interpolated, and that means the movement, the animation, it's very smooth. You can see it right here. It's so smooth, buttery. Okay, in traditional American 3D animation, this is desired, and sometimes they overshoot the animation with exaggerations of the keyframes. But in anime, we don't want to do that. We want to simulate as much as closely as we can the 2D hand-drawn method, which is also, every 2 or 3 frames, depending on how smooth you want it, how smooth you want those changes to happen. And please pay attention on this. Not every time you would want to bake by 3s. This is why it is important that if you're planning to create a character animation for a fighting video game, or if you're planning to do a dancing animation for a dancing character in anime, you do know how to interpolate your arcs. Okay, this is very important. You need to animate the 3D model in the same way you would animate it in 2D, and not every frame has to have a keyframe. So, in our example, I'm going to be transforming this by pressing T, again, constant. And we will see no difference because the arc itself is being reproduced every 3 frames, but linearly interpolated. So we will not see any drastic changes. And I might be wrong, I might be crashing this thing again, but let's just take the risk because, rewards are for the brave, for the Valorant, or I'm sorry, that's the name of the game. I'm sorry, for the Valiant. So what we're going to do here is to have Fixie go from this frame onto this other frame, and we need to calculate how many in between steps she's going to take. So she's starting very slow. She's going to jump all of these keyframes to a main key pose, another one probably around here, and then finally slowing back here. So this is going to be 154, and this is going to be 98. And you can already see how it will turn. Okay, please remember, let me switch colors so you can understand what we're doing right here. Visibility, viewer, annotations, change colors. Let's use a green. Yeah, because it's keyframes. You can see that right now we have all of these green keyframes going every 3 frames, right? But we need to somehow take those away and just leave these specific keyframes, which are the main frames. We don't want that many interpolated keyframes, okay? So again, I'm going to be explaining this slowly. Right now, we just baked all of these keyframes. But what we want to intend, and this is important because even Mr. Motomura Jr., Christopher Jr. Motomura said, one of the animators and developers in Guilty Gear Xrd, he said the intentionality is what drives your production, your anime production in 3D. And our intention is to have a smooth start, jump to this position, jump to a second position, and then slow down over here. This is how you read these things. That's why you can even see notes about the arcs, how fast or how slow we want from this point to this point to arrive. Oh, look at this. Undo works for annotations. Alright, let's go back into this specific cube, and we're going to be done with this. So here we go. We have what we just drew up here, and we want to get rid of all of these things right here, all the way probably until right here. All of those X and D to delete keyframes. So we covered this section. From here over here, we need to cover the next section. Let's go and take this over here. Actually, XD. And from here, I need to remove this because right now I'm going to be on this section. And I have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's over. So we have 1, 2, 3, we start. 1, 2, 3, we start. We go to the middle. Approximately the middle. Then we go to another keyframe over here, which is this one, before starting to slow down with the last 3 keyframes. So we've completed this. So Mr. Schiller, do you mean that we are not only able to bake every 3 steps to make the stop motion looking style for animation, but we also have to know how to draw our intention arcs for animations by doing this kind of graphs? Indeed, because that's the way they do it in 2D animation, and that's the way you should work in 3D animation. So in 3D animation, when you're doing anime, by the way, this is not desired in America. If America sees you, if an American director looks at you and it is not the intended production, this method will get you immediately out of the door. Okay? They don't like that. But we do. We like anime production in such a way that we can emulate those 2D and 3D aspects. See that? And now you see Fixie popping over here. Exactly like we said she would. So she starts very aware, tries to, endure whatever the dialogue part is saying right there, which is basically you being hurt, but I am here to heal you. And then gets ready to go into the attack mode. So now let's play it back all the way from the beginning, and then let's go to the interesting part, which is the AI generation thing, which I want to show you, by the way. So here we see her. The camera gets near her. For some reason, I don't see her talking. That's weird. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure we did animate those. What happened there? No, look at that. This is strange. Maybe it's because the baking thing is broken. When I baked only that bone, the entire thing was pushed to the NLA, and since the other parts were not baked with that bone, I lost them. Otherwise, we would have seen how Fixie, was able to move her mouth, popping her jaw, popping her lips, and also popping her body poses. Okay, it looks very rough, but you can polish from here and create your animation in real time, which is the intent of this stream. Alright, we've covered most of the things that we were interested in. Now let me switch back to my stable diffusion. Let me see if I have it right here. Okay, yeah. Stable diffusion, let's just show this for a second. In case that you don't know, stable diffusion, it's generator for images which you can create based off text prompts, what they are called, and you can describe what you want in the image, and then it will create it automatically. So in this case, I'm only just generating one image with this kind of description, and I'm trying to generate a fixie animated character, something that looks like fixie. And for this, you can also train your own model, your own drawings, your own renders, and create an entire CKPT trained model file. And this is important because when you do that, you can ask the Stable Diffusion application to create your character basically in any situation, in any background, with any kind of lighting, if you train your model well. That is exactly what I did this past 2 or 3 weeks with one of our users in Patreon, one of our supporters in Patreon, Lefebvre, and he developed the model, which I'm going to show you right now. You're going to see some ugly things, but you're also going to see other great stuff. Let me see, fixed train model. Here we go. Okay, here we go. If you can please pardon the size. Let me see if I can. Okay, here we go. So let's start up talking about the AI and copyrights and intellectual properties. While this opens, let me just get a sip of water. This is Fixie reimagined by Stable Diffusion. It doesn't look that bad. I mean, it actually makes sense that she has, these cybernetic arms and stuff like that. It even redesigned the cumbersome parts that I created for her, like the boots. It simplified it. The straps also are there. The belt also has a regular size and stuff like that. And this is Stable Diffusion 2.1. I wanted to talk to you about that as well. So Stable Diffusion 2.1 creates these enormous rendered sizes, and that is, and it's created specifically addressing the RTX cards. I have a 1080 GTX card, and so I can only generate low models like 512 by 512. I will be showing you those ahead. This is another model generated by Lefebvre, and he uses the prompt 2D illustration. With the Fixie trained model, this is the result that he gets, and it's really, really great to see another perspective for the character. Look at the gloves. Fixie's gloves are too colored, but the AI decided that no, you know what, you can use those in actually an edge of the glove and actually make the glove longer to simplify the design. And I really like those options when the AI is helping you to reimagine your characters. Look at this. I think that the prompt word for this was walking on the city at night, or something like Cyber City or Neon Punk City at night. I don't remember. Here we go. Fixie, city walking in a crowded street, tall masterpiece, high details, best quality, blah blah blah. So this is what you get, and she actually looks like a very, very good illustrated manga in this way. So why is it important to explore other styles? Because you really need to see this is why the art director exists, and this is one of the first points I want to make. I'll be switching to the chat window in a second, but this is one of the first points I wanted to make about the AI protests rather, that the art directors are really sweating bullets right now because they think they might lose their jobs. That's why they are very reluctant to everything that is going on with the AI space right now. That is something that, well, anyways, everyone has their own opinions, and I do respect them. Uh, However, there are other positive sides to that, and that is art revisions, art style revisions. So let's continue with the next one. This was another render as 2D animation. As 2D illustration. You can clearly see that this looks more like a crossover between a comic and a manga. Comic coloring and manga drawn style. Again, American comic coloring crossover with manga style. Very simplified manga style. Um, yeah, this is kind of looking even like a Yu-Gi-Oh illustrated card. It kind of looks like that way. Still, this is not anime. This is just illustration, and this is another point I wanted to show. Hello, Putra. Why you hate AI? No, I'm not hating AI. I'm saying how we can use its power for our benefits as artists or as animators. So continue. Let's continue with the talk. Here's another one. This one looks really good actually. If it wasn't because of these little details, I would also consider this kind of texturing for the 3D model itself, because it actually looks like the thing I had in my head when I was going to create Fixie for the first time. This is kind of going more into the anime side, because you can see that there are smoother lines, thinner lines. We have some dirt or pixelated areas here. It's not really good. This one's not really good. It will not work for anime. Anime doesn't look this way. But it was interesting to see the suit variation. Look at this. Looks like a superheroine, which was kind of cool to consider another style. By the way, the AI redesigned most of the Fixie's uniforms, and I have some pretty awesome ideas. I cannot show them to you right now because those are going to be shown for the patrons, as well as the new Fixie model, which will be using those new colors, if we can say it that way, that new outfit, that new uniform. Now this is looking more like the traditional Fixie that we know, but it is still an illustrated looking picture. We can say the same thing about this. This is kind of looking more like an Evangelion crossover, which I don't see that bad. It actually looks good, but this is not the anime look that we were looking for at the beginning. It looks great, and I think with a little bit of retouching, this could really be a good piece. Again, a crossover between American comic coloring and then manga traditional drawing. This one really blew me out of the chair, because when Lefebvre presented this to me, I saw this and I said, how did you get the Guilty Gear style in this? And he said, this is what you were aiming for, right? And then I go, yeah, this is definitely some of the things that I imagined back then when I was creating Fixie for the first time. And this, I believe, is the best representation of Fixie in the original style as I envisioned it back in 2019, which I cannot, fully grasp in the 3D aspect in this 2019 model. So here I have other concepts. For example, in this case, Stable Diffusion is taking the style from this is Symphogear by Toei Animation Studios. Okay, this is where people starts to lose their grip. This is where the gray line is starting to get blurred. Okay, so now I'll be taking the questions that we were going to address at the beginning, because this is where the line deviates. This is where most of the artists are raging off, and I want to address that. So let's go with the first question. Let me go back. Do you think, this is by Synthetic Dreamer, so the first question is, do you think all the artists who want AI regulated are doing wishful thinking? Okay, so to answer that, synthetic dreamer, thank you for your question. Um, there are two sides to this. The first side wants to obtain or use everything the AI is capable of doing without retributing or without acknowledging the artist, even though they need to put the attribute or the prompt to generate that kind of art. And this is a perfect example because I saw this image and then I said, okay, that's done by Toei Animations, so I really would like that kind of a style into my own design. So how it will turn, what it will do, what will it change. So you already know Fixie and her uniform, but it was very interesting to see that taking this as a base image, it could generate my own very own variations on my very own character. And in this case, I don't see it wrong. Why? Because we take a lot of inspiration from different anime productions ever since anime is anime. You've seen fan fiction, right? And that's taking something directly from sometimes the video game models and then rigging them back in Blender and then doing animation. And those people are doing it for the fan love of the franchise. A clear example of that is Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z. And in that case, it's okay because they are having fun with that. And if the studio doesn't say anything about it, I guess they don't approve it, probably. But they are happy to see how fans react, and that in that case, I guess it's okay too. I don't know. It should depend on them entirely. But what I'm saying is, and my point clearly is, that if you like something, you can imitate it, and it's okay for you to, like express yourself as an artist with that, as long as you don't hurt the franchise original objective, which is to present the character integrally as it is. You don't deform it, you don't put an extra arm here, you don't make it go bald in the case of Dragon Ball Z. That you actually represent the character the way it is intended to be represented. And I guess they are okay up until some degree. And to some other degree, they tried for the people to really not do that. But with a very old franchise as Dragon Ball Z, I guess that's inevitable, and they kind of see things. For example, it was a clear case that before Dragon Ball superhero movie, Gohan was depicted in some other ways that came from the community of fans. So when they saw that on the West, on Japan, they took those ideas and said, you know what, let's give the fans what they've been asking for, and let's make Gohan this way and that way. So I guess it's working there in a way that they are comfortable. And I'm mentioning the original creator company and also the fans, and that's okay. So as long as they are okay with each other, like mutual consent, that's okay. But in the case that you want to sell, I don't know, a series of the Gohan multiverse or something like that, and here are the entire toys created out of that, and here are the entire I don't know, let's say shirts, merchandise, hats, caps, I don't know, products out of this fictional fanfic based of the original franchise, then you're getting into trouble. You're asking for trouble. The IP, the intellectual property, the IP is not yours. You cannot benefit economically from that. And this is exactly what is going on right now with AI. People think that because you have access to any model or any artist or any style that you would want to create your expressive art, that it is okay to generate it and then sell it. I'm against that. I don't like that. And not only me. I know there are blurry lines. There are some gray lines there. Everything is like, going so crazy fast right now that even the lawyers and the IP property guys that, register patents and copyrights and an AI coder were in a meeting last week, and I was a participant of that meeting. Now let's get into that. Let me see if I have this, because I can show you this in live. Here we go. AI copyright number 2. Probably we get the sound back. While that loads, let's go to the next question. Let's see. The mighty flog says AI is here to stay. Every country in the world will have to regulate it. Yes, indeed. Let's go to the next question. Okay, the Ray Dark 6. Isn't there an AI that allows you to keep full fidelity with a Blender render and just make a render even more 2D? Maybe improve the line art or simplifying the shadows even more? Yes, there is. And what is marvelous about the method that you mentioned is that it actually takes the depth render, the depth rays originally generated in Blender and created a model out of that in 2D, but it's using the 3D depth information to generate it. So you will always have the same silhouette for the character or the object, and you can change the textures, you can change their appearance, you can change anything you want with the prompt, and that's very important. It's think of it like a mask. Think of this like if it was a mask. Let me play it back so maybe you can hear this.
But, the game's not over yet.
All right, yes, you can. Fantastic.
So it might be, but he's smarter than me, so maybe it's not. But I mean, I don't know. I think I dealt with Warner Brothers at one point in my career, and I think they had like a gigantic database, and it was like, I don't know. Don't quote me. I think it was half their budget or something gigantic amount to run this sort of rights management database for music, and it was like to make sure that like the Roadie's brother's divorced sister's kid could get 1/1,000,000,000% of a cent for this song that was played this time on a radio jingle or whatever. I'm like, but now you're talking about not creating that just for like a limited subset of things. And again, AI is not a database. It's not fetching something from a database. Again, a complete misunderstanding of how this stuff works. So I don't even know how you would do that, but you're certainly not going to build. I don't know anyone technologically at this point who could build a gigantic, like, reward system that's automated for the entire world across its jurisdictions to reward someone for 1/1,000,000,000th of a cent for supposedly potentially being the inspiration of something. I just don't know how you even technically feasibly build that.
Okay, we're gonna stop there. You just listen to Daniel. Okay, here are the names. Daniel Jeffries. He's an AI coder, and he basically said, AI doesn't work the way you think it works, and even if it worked the way you think and imagine that it works, you are unable to cash in, to be understood, monetized, the 1/3 of a 10th billion, so that you can cash in whatever the AI took from whatever art you say it took. So there's no way to monetize a very tiny fraction of a data set that has been used. Number one. Number two, the current AI generator tools, such as Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, do not actually have the power to just go out there, search for something new, and bring it back to you transformed. Okay, you have to understand that. That's what he, who is a coder, Daniel, who is a coder, just explained. So in order for Stable Diffusion to generate these things, I need to hit the right parameters. I need to prepare the prompts in such a way that can be reconstructed, showing me something similar to this, based off of this, but it is not actually the same thing. Let's move on. Here we have a similar case. This is, I don't remember where I took this picture from, but if you generate something similar, even if you put your diffusion, what's it called? Diffusion, I'm sorry, I forget the parameter, denoising parameter, sorry. And you place it exactly as the same copy, it will not generate the same copy. It will variate your lines, it will variate your lights. You can see they are almost similar, but they are not the same thing. And this is where the copyright patent guy talked, and he said, if you want to settle a demand, if you want to sue somebody for stealing your art, you need to prove to the court that you were able, or that counterfeit copy was able to replicate your work in its original form as somewhere above a 60% 75 threshold, which means this thing should look like the original thing in a 75%, um, which in this case could be, but it's not the same. If you take a look at this, the hair does not look exactly like this. Their color palette even is a variant. Okay, there are some things here that may look the same. Like right now, this is part of the dress. It's not the hair really. She's got short hair. This one has long hair, and by means of comparing the real objective data on this side to the original source data on this side, you will find it cannot be compared. This is kind of a sword or a red blade, and this is just a red line there, which also has another red line down here, which basically says, you know what, this is just drawn there. It's not a blade. It's not a wall, and they can get away with that. Not actually that they can get away, but this is not. If you present this to me and you present this to me, I will clearly say these two are two different things. They kind of look similar, but if I go and look closely, this is not the replicated work and derived work from its original source if it doesn't meet such and such percentage in similarities. So the copyright guy said, you are not going to sue someone for your 0.00003% that looks like the image that was generated. That's something to be thinking about. So you have different parameters, and these are all the basic parameters you have, for example, in applications like Stable Diffusion. And as you can see, even that, with those precise parameters, even the AI that is trained there can create errors. Like, look at this blurry background. Her shoulder protectors are wrong. Her hands are wrong. Anyways, I think you get the idea. I was trying Stable Diffusion 2.1 to generate even higher resolution fixie anime models, but it wasn't able to do it, and this is because there is a limitation on the CUDA cores for my 1080 GTX graphics card. So the RTX cards, the 3090, the 4090 CUDA cores are better prepared for Stable Diffusion 2.1. You can ask all the questions about that in the comment section below if you're watching this after I finish the streaming. So, as you may probably know, most of the prompts come from Dan Boru, and they tell you how to do this. For example, if you're looking to create a traditional media with watercolor, this is the prompt that you would use. So here's another picture of Fixie trained walking the street. This was created with Stable Diffusion 2.1, and as you can see, Stable Diffusion 2.1 creates this jacket, if we can call it that way, because it thinks that Fixie is some sort of a race runner. You know those suits that the race runner in the Formula 1 use? Well, apparently, Stable Diffusion 2.1 thinks Fixie is exactly that. That's why it dresses her in this way, which is not a bad idea after all, but it's not the original character. Although it simplifies it, and this is still looking like a 2D illustrated piece. And it doesn't look bad, but it is not anime. This is looking more towards the anime, and this was generated with a lower resolution on Stable Diffusion 2.1. And anyways, we can go on, and you can see the variations and why we're speaking of all of these things. It is because you can use AI to enhance your own IP, your intellectual property, to create better based models, or better based artworks, or better based animations, or better based styles with the things that you create. This is why I kind of encourage everyone, to try different styles on the Stable Diffusion application. So yes, that's basically it, and we have all of these other things. I don't want to go into maybe this one. It's gonna be worth. This is all Stable Diffusion 2.1, and as you can see, my graphics card cannot support the intensity for the CUDA cores. I also have some technical issues that I need to resolve, like emptying the cache and reinstalling things. But you can see Stable Diffusion 2.1, it's working, it's trying to do its deal, but it's not perfect. Okay, so once I reach the point where I can train my own fixing model, because as I mentioned before, this model was gently provided by one of our patrons, Lefred, and he and I have been working in the parameters, in the settings, what works, what doesn't work, what breaks the images, what makes blurry images, etc. Look at this chaos. This is horrible. But it looks like an anime. Although the character is all wrecked, it's wrong. Now this one looks more like an anime and it looks good, but the background is just plain bad. So here are some of the things that I wanted to show you on how you can use artificial intelligence in a positive way so that you can get positive results, that you can get quicker art directions, and that you will like to use as your own thing, because you can develop ideas. Humanity as we know it has always been taking ideas from previous artists, from previous poets, from previous lawyers, from previous technicians, from previous programmers. I mean, why is it going to be different for the artificial intelligence to take other works, obviously, that are going to be contributing to human evolution? The problem is whenever those humans want to profit and sell those creations as their own. That's where my line draws. That's where I do not stand. I am in favor of technology. I am in favor of using these techniques. I am in favor of developing even a more evolved model, but I'm not in favor of people attributing themselves the credit for the style or the artwork. I'm not standing with the people who say, I don't want to teach you my ways because you're going to rob me and the artificial intelligence is going to take my style and then I'm going to go out of job. No, you won't. Whatsoever, if so ever something happens, is that your credit as an artist is going to go up because there are so many counterfeits that your originals are going to cost double, if not quadruple, the original value that it now has. So I'm just saying this because all week long people have been complaining about the no AI thing, and I guess it's good whenever, these points that we have mentioned are working together for the good. And it's totally wrong when the AI takes something for, or rather to benefit art theft. I'm definitely not supporting that. I don't like that, but that doesn't make the artificial intelligence the one to blame, but rather the human that is controlling those kind of things. So that's my perspective. I don't know if you have any other questions. If not, we can just close the stream. Thank you so much. It has been almost an hour and a half, and I hope this gets recorded. 2 hours. Sorry, wow, that took a lot of time. My Synthetic Dreamer says my 3090 can do a solid 720p render and even higher. Yes, indeed. It is because the CUDA architecture, and it's great. So Comfy Joshi says anime AI generated images seems to have a lot of compositing on them. Yes, indeed. And this is why I was mentioning that you should train the AI model with specific images that you want to use in the future for your own reference. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to take this fixie, which is really deformed, really bad, and then I'm going to be making a better background, fixing the colors, and using this exact pose, but making it better, 3,000 times better, so that it can be taken as a reference. Now, this is another thing that Stable Diffusion 1.5 generated. It's not looking good, it's not looking bad, but it does look anime. So I'm taking some references here from the snow, from the environment, and I also need to train and fix that. Here's another deformed one. This is a crossover between an illustration and kind of a glowy effect panel. So as you can see, this is not anime. He has tried to do the best. Again, we have the same problem. We don't have enough definition here, so it looks really bad. This style I really like, so I'm planning to make this frame even better and probably use it. This one right here looks good, but not enough information, not enough data set. So yeah, that's that, and thank you so much for joining this evening. I know it's kind of late in some of the countries, um, but here we are, and thank you so much for um, sharing your thoughts as well. I don't know if you have any other questions, or maybe we can just say goodbye. So here's another really interesting renders. They are very noisy, but they are looking good. Once this is fixed, the model will be retrained, and then we will finally have what we have been striving for the last 3 months, a definitive anime style for the Fixie anime universe. So thank you so much, and if you have any other questions, please don't forget to type them in the comment section below. And I hope to see you in the next video.